have a strategy, who's going to build it? Every one of these things too, as part of your strategy, you're going to go through what we call a buy build analysis. Like everybody here, probably half your LinkedIn feeds, we're drowning in AI tools, right? What tool is not touting new AI features? There's new tools coming out for different use cases in different industries. So really understanding, do we want to buy that tool and leverage it? Should we build an automated workflow for us? Those are different things that we have to decide. And then when we do decide, who's going to do that integration? Even a lot of these AI tools that are out there, you think of a Salesforce or a CRM set. These are not one-click installation and we're up and running. There's a lot of configuration and pipelines and customization. And what we've learned, even working with 6 or 7 companies in the same industry, you would assume and hope that, oh, it's an industry playbook, these are the use cases for that industry. It just isn't that way. Like AI is so nuanced and bespoke to your organization. So even your company versus the company next door, who might be the same business model, you are going to have different workflows, different people, different systems, different KPIs that you're tracking. And so the roadmap and the transformation is going to be very bespoke to you. And just AI is going to be a very individualistic thing for your organization. And even once we figure out the technical execution, which I think we all know, the building with AI is getting easier and easier and faster, this human adoption right here is probably the biggest thing I've underestimated in the business. So next slide, please, Skylar. This is what we encounter all the time. And you guys will encounter this. We have companies that have 3,000 employees as clients. We have companies that have 15 employees. It is the same. So we've all heard of the bell curve. They give it the opposite way. We call it the barbell curve, where you will take a random sample size of 10 people in your organization. You will have the people who are building on the weekends, pushing cool shit, like super exciting. And then you will have the skeptics who tried it out a couple times, maybe put a couple documents in, didn't really like what they got out, are anti-AI. This is becoming the biggest challenge that we see across most organizations. And if I look back 12, 18 months ago, and you asked me, like, what is one thing you underestimated or is different in your business today than you originally thought, it is easily this: how big the human adoption problem is. And inside the same organization, you have people who are flying, you have people who have not started, on the same team working together, coming in these same weekly meetings, and it's causing frustration and challenges. This little number here, I'd say most organizations, it proves pretty accurate. Like, under 10% of the employees are driving most of that AI transformation. And so you saw in that first slide, a big part of our business now is training. And there's a lot of training out there from public sources, YouTube, but structured training. The question I have for everybody: who has adopted or rolled out formally, like we have a company ChatGPT or a company Claude license? Okay, only a few of you. Is everybody else, are you using it personally? Yeah, okay. The next step is gonna be like selecting that LLM and rolling it out. I cannot urge you enough that a big takeaway here is don't just hand everybody the keys and say, let's roll. Going through structured training and focusing on that human adoption is gonna be such a key part of success in your business. Those two things are gonna be very, very correlated. And so it's a pleasure to say this, because all of the things that we dream of doing in our business, the ideas that I'm sure you'll come up with today, it is no longer a technical problem. It's an integration problem. And I would not have said this as simple as 6 months ago. The last 4 months, and I'm sure in Q1, a lot of you have heard all the things that Claude has pushed live, Claude Cowork. I mean, AI, it's got a great PR team at all these AI companies, but it truly has been differentiated. And I was just listening to a podcast here this morning, or on the way here, with Mark Andreessen, and they look at it as the holiday of 2025 in December was when all the biggest coding engineers finally put their hand up and said, AI is officially a better coder than I am. I'm the best coding. So it is kind of this last 6 months transition where this wasn't the case 6 months ago. And so it's a great thing that all of our dreams can come true, all the ideation that we have. But that integration, are we going to buy it? Are we going to build it? How are we going to integrate it? We're going to talk through a little bit of that in the second half of today's presentation and how we approach it and a lot of the kind of lessons that we've learned. And so at this point, I want to open it up and just questions, comments, concerns. This is a fairly intimate group. I want to feel very comfortable with you guys, safe space. Don't have to just sit there and take in the presentation. If you have a question or a thought, certainly raise your hand. So any questions thus far? Yeah.
What do you think is the best process for an organization to go through to decide whether it's Copilot, whether it's Claude, whether it's chat, and who knows what comes next? Because as human beings, we tend to avoid a lot of change, right? So once we get really used to a certain technology, why not keep using it? Finance people tell you, why change? It's just another expense. So is there a process that you'd recommend to go through to evaluate the effectiveness, the impact of the organization, so you choose the right solution and don't really have to change other than upgrade to the next version?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so all the models, like the big four, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini from Google, and Copilot, are really the ones that we evaluate mostly, and every company is going to have to make their individual decision. Now, you will see different feature sets go, like right now, ChatGPT, amazing at generating creative and imagery. Claude is not quite there. Claude's great at a lot of other things. And so I'll tell you from our business perspective, we work with both. We have really been migrating our business a lot to Claude. It's like a business operating system, how the team's gonna work, connecting with your systems. Claude is second to none at this point. Now, are they all gonna improve and get there? Yes. Still a little blown away how Copilot sucks so much still. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be that individualistic decision. And so across our clients, when we come in to make that decision, a big one is going to be security and compliance. And so the clients of ours who do stay on Copilot and within the Microsoft ecosystem, usually it is banks, financial institutions, financial services, because they're inside of that environment. And Microsoft does offer the highest security and compliance because all your data is sitting in there. And so if you have to abide by SEC compliance, things like that, we certainly don't want to risk that, and that can be a big decision to make. Same deal as well on just the emphasis of your business. Like if generating ad creative and you're a D2C brand is a huge part of your business, then maybe you do want to really lean in on Gemini and NanoBanana and some of these tools, because we do see a place for that. I'll tell you this, while we tend to move more and more towards Claude, and a lot of what people share is around how we architect Claude workflows, and Claude Cowork has come out, it has been mind-blowing. I think we looked at the last 45 to 60 days, Claude pushed like 57 new feature updates in under 60 days. And so it's amazing how fast, like, I say yes, NanoBanana, Gemini is better at making beautiful imagery and creative imagery, Claude's not quite there yet. I'll check back in with you in 60 days, and it's, they're gonna keep pushing it, for sure. They wanna capitalize on the market. But it's gonna be a very individualistic decision, and so security I think is gonna be a big one. But Claude's probably gonna be a situation where I'd say high recommendation there. But does that answer your question? Got it.
And to follow up, what does chat have over Claude right now other than the imagery?
I don't know if I know exactly how to answer that. Keith, do you have a good answer?
Stumped
to that?
him already.
Nothing.
I'm trying to think before I say it.
Yeah, honestly, when it comes to imagery, like Gemini and NanoBanana has everyone beat on that. The thing I would just say is, like, while I do believe you need to select one of these platforms as like your business operating system, to say like everyone's going to be on this, because as I'll talk about in a little bit, the most valuable part of AI is going to be when it's fully integrated with all the different systems, right? And you can ask it questions that, like, it could go into this system and match up the data from that system and give you an answer, create a dashboard, and we're there. You can do that. What you can do is you can say, all right, well, as part of this workflow, I want to be able to use Claude to say, start this prompt. It's going to do all this stuff, but as part of it, I want it to go to Gemini and load NanoBanana, load an image, how to create an image, and then pull it back in. You can do that. So you can use other models for what they're good for, but my opinion on, is there a better platform out there than Claude right now to like use as your operating model of business? I don't think there is a good reason to use anything.
Yeah. And a lot of the training that we run with clients and that we encourage is not necessarily like Claude specific training or ChatGPT. You definitely have to get to know the tool, but a lot of it, where we want ourselves and our employees to go, is you have to learn how to work with AI. And one of the things that's been really interesting around the transition is coming from the old world of software, how important the user interface was, and drop-down menus and buttons. Like, it's kind of all blown out the window now, where OpenAI changed that forever, where now it's this natural language window. You have all the same functionality, but there's no buttons, there's no drop-downs, it's just apps. And so it's pretty wild when we work with clients. A lot of people in this room, I'd imagine, I'd put you at that more strategic level. You layer a chat interface over your company data, like, it's probably get out of the way, I've got so many questions. You'd be pretty surprised where in a lot of employees or a lot of teams that are a little bit more maybe kind of linear thinkers, it's a little bit of deer in the headlights. Like, what do I ask? And so that training of how do I work with AI, how do I ask structured questions, how do I get what I want? A prompt at the end of the day is asking a computer to do an action or go fetch some stuff for you. And so there's, I don't want to say right or wrong, but there's definitely an advantageous way. One final thing on that, as people do familiarize themselves and get to know AI, I'll tell you this, I still have 2 licenses. I have my ChatGPT license and I have my Claude license. As Keith mentioned, like Claude is the operating system of our business. Personally, I just like the way my output in terms of ChatGPT when it comes to just email structures or kind of tone. And so the way I've kind of seen it happen, and I'm not right or wrong here, but you think almost like the Apple versus Microsoft. Microsoft went business systems. Claude is looking to dominate the business market. Their connectors, the data, the way that they're structuring workflows. ChatGPT, I think, is a little bit more of that consumer focus, and they're winning the consumer space for sure. We've all got it on our phones and quick chat, quick query. And so for us, from a business perspective, which is what we'll talk about mostly today, that business operating system, same with Keith, second to none. One more. We'll keep going. Okay, you got it?
Oh, you got it.
As part of your business, guiding and instructing the AI component of the business, do you get involved with sort of the softer strategies called governance and things like that?
Yep, we'll talk about that in just a minute. Absolutely. Yes, Chris.
I was just curious, do you think it's because you were saying you think OpenAI, or Chat, you prefers you. Do you think it's because it's gotten to know your prompts and what you like, as maybe you haven't entered, got more personal with Claude?
Yeah, I think you can definitely, that's very fixed for me, really building tone, all that type of stuff. But from day one, I had done a lot more just personal chatting with ChatGPT, and I think the memory picks it up. And so haven't put a ton of effort into migrating that to Claude, but
Yeah.
I literally on Friday was testing that with a response to a client email and going back and forth, and ChatGPT, that's the one I sent. Because it's always an interesting one of these models are changing all the time, and how do they know my own context, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, Scott, hit it. So we've looked at 200 companies. I sit at the front end of our business. I'm talking to dozens of companies every week. We see it all. And so most companies, this is where we come in, this is where we see them start. There's just a ton of operational stagnation. Like even our company in certain areas, there's just so many manual workflows that the opportunity is there. Most companies that we do see, like they've made a bet on some tools, but there's really no structure. The lack of strategy and alignment is pretty mind-blowing. The amount of times that we've come into an executive room and I've done it physically and say, hey, I'm gonna pass out a sticky note to the 6 executives at the table. Everybody write down what your priorities are with AI and what's your AI strategy. I just can't help but laugh when I get those back. At sitting in a room, if I ask you, what's your go-to-market strategy? We're usually all aligned. We're spending ads here, we're doing this. What's our product strategy? How are we doing it? Okay, what's your AI strategy? Goose eggs. Like so different, the priorities of sales are so different than operations. And so that lack of alignment is wild, and what it leads to is a lot of misalignment, wasted spend. You'll go months and be like, man, did we get anything done? No, because we weren't aligned. To your point, no governance, no security. And so people do not realize this. Who's heard the term vibe coding? Pretty popular around like, hey, people internally can just, hey, I'm gonna whip up an app. We see that all the time. It's like the greatest thing ever, but simultaneously the scariest thing ever. The amount of apps that people are pushing where somebody who's non-technical can talk to Claude, whip up an app and say, everybody go use this, dump in client information, it's gonna do X, Y, or Z, and there's no API governance. It's such a risky deal. And so from a governance policy, one of the first things that we do and I'd recommend you guys doing is build an AI policy in your organization, especially if you're dealing with sensitive client data, because we're now seeing that. We work with a lot of law firms. People can, like if you're in a lawsuit, you can go and query your employees' ChatGPT references, and so having that AI policy is going to be really important. Foundationally, like before you roll out a license and say, hey guys, I'm going to give you a Claude license and OpenAI license, have them sign an AI policy. Really, really important. And just bat it off you guys. We talked a little bit about this, but it is wild still today in every organization. This is only going to expand as that kind of right end of the barbell starts going further, and the amount of skepticism that's out there, and whether that's rooted in insecurities, fears, it's a big thing today that you need to really pay attention to inside of your business and inside of your teams. And so, keep going. So this is really our core belief. This is why we exist. The companies that get this right will pull ahead. And we are at the infancy. I was at a big AI conference in Austin a few months ago, and the thesis was like, you think about the game and AI and business, we're still tailgating. Like the game hasn't even really started, and just watching what happened over the last 4 months is just, it's truly hard to comprehend where we're gonna be 12 months from now and the technology that's gonna be there. What Keith's gonna show you how we're starting these workflows, what's possible inside of your own teams, your own personal productivity, your workflows, is gonna unlock a lot of that, so. Cool, let's see. Is this, oh man, okay. We had to use their computer and we don't have that extension, so I guess we'll pass on this one. We got a little live poll here. Should have checked that, so Skylar, go ahead. I'll do it, let's go back. I'll do it hands raised. All right. I'm gonna give you 4 levels. How confident are you in your company's adoption and execution of AI? Like who think level 1 is haven't even started yet. Level 2, we're thinking about it, we're experimenting. Level 3 is we're actually seeing some impact. And level 4 would be like we have AI embedded in our workflows. Who's level 1? Just getting started. Okay, got any level 2s? Experimenting, okay. Anybody have it like really embedded in workflows, level 3s? All right, give me any level 4s in the crowd. Okay, got it. Level 3s though, okay, so you're actually experimenting, you're seeing good stuff. Raise your hands again. All right, I want to let people know that these are the more advanced folks in the crowd. So, awesome, appreciate it. We've got a good variety though, and that's what makes a good room. And so when we go into the workshop, it's gonna be exciting. The 2 things I want to make sure you differentiate, and it's interesting seeing it across. Most companies stop at level 1, like personal productivity. We see everything across hundreds of engagements. The amount of companies that like tell me, oh, we got it, we're crushing it with AI. We come in, it's like, hey guys, you got a bunch of people using ChatGPT. Like you're not an AI-enabled business. There's really no impact on the bottom line here. Like tell me where you are either making more money, you are seeing revenue increase, you are seeing tangible like, bottom line P&L impact from AI. It's usually not there. And I go 1 level deeper on that. I'm also probably going to expose to you where it's hurting you because there's AI slop everywhere in the organization. People are just sending stuff out. Where we see the big transformation is like, we call it AI transformation, organizational transformation, where you look at what was happening before AI, the way that we were doing something, multiple teams working together, and what's happening after AI. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit more detail. So next slide. As we go, phase 1 is set the foundation. So we want to break this into 2 things. It's a cliche example, but the way to think about AI when you're coming into the organization, and I think those who are kind of 1s and 2s, I think of it like building a house. Like I would never hammer, nail, or pour concrete before the architecture process. There's so many decisions that are going to impact costs, that are going to impact timeline, execution. Like, do you want the granite countertops or not? Or are we building a house in Phoenix versus New Hampshire? Like that's going to indicate there's so many different decisions that have to be made. So defining what our strategy is, what are we going to do, what are we going to not do, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, and then move into execution phase. And so that's going to set up so much success. We've made those mistakes early on in our business, jumping right into execution. You get into month 3 and you're like, oh my God, I wish I talked to that department before we started. We have to come back because there isn't a department that I've found that sits completely siloed. Like every department in your organization is somewhat connected. Data is being pushed, and so even that aspect of saying, well, we're going to trial it in marketing first. Like there's so much connection between sales and marketing and operations. So the process of designing that AI strategy is where we want to go next. So how to develop that AI strategy. We've broken it down into 6 parts, and we'll stay a little bit high level here and then dive into the more granular workflows with Keith in about 5 minutes. But step 1 is understanding that AI adoption. And so where are we inside of our organization? If you have 50 people, I'm going to send you guys a survey that after this I'll follow up with that will help you measure that. But understand where we are, because that's going to indicate, like, do we have advanced thinkers? Are people going to be skeptical in adoption, or are we going to move quickly on here? Second one is going to be map the opportunities across the department. And so I will send this survey out. So ready, remind me, we'll send everything out. And it's a great survey that we use in every single one of our engagements. We call it an AI maturity index, which is going to basically allow your team members or senior stakeholders kind of where they are with AI, some of their sentiment and excitement, and then log the opportunities that they think are the highest opportunities in the business. Most of what we see, like so much meat comes from inside of the organization in terms of workflows that can be automated. You're going to see a lot of that. And so once we do that, we rank them and prioritize them. So go through every department. If you think, hey, I have an idea, I think this is a great use case, I encourage you, Get your seniors team together, maybe spend a week or 2 weeks, have everybody jot down what they think in their department is gonna be a couple of the top opportunities. Get those together. It might be 20, 25, 30, but you have to rank those and understand some are gonna be just shiny object syndrome. Like if we automate that, is that saving 1 hour a week, 3 hours a week, or is that gonna be transformational to the business? And so you need to understand that, and I can tell you 80% of the ideas that clients throw our way are noise. Like you actually double click into that and say, if we do this, how is it going to impact the business? We're sitting here a year from now, bottom line, shift it. Are we avoiding 3 or 4 hires that we might have had to make by automating this? Is the team sentiment going up? Like those are the questions you want to ask. And so many people just get excited about an idea, pull the trigger, 2-3 months later, we haven't seen anything, and they get this real negative sentiment. And so it's not because they chose or they did it wrong, it's because they chose the wrong place to start. Once you have that and say, hey, here's the top 3 to 5 that we want to do, you gotta go deep on scoping for technical complexity. Do we have the systems talking to each other? Like how complicated is this gonna be to build? Even run that buy build analysis. Am I gonna build this, or is there a really cool tool? Like can Claude do this? Do I need to custom build a web app? Maybe do some research. Is there an actual app that I can buy that might do this for me and shortcut a lot of this? And so there's so many of those decisions that need to be made. And then once we scope that, aligning the leadership team, like the senior stakeholders, we are in some rooms where they battle it out. Who gets to kind of see AI transformation come first? And this is gonna take investment. This is gonna take energy and resources and time. Like once you get on the AI train, you're not gonna get off. You're not gonna wanna get off because this is the way the world's going. You have to adopt it, you have to figure this out, but you wanna do it in a really structured process. And so once you get that, like I'd recommend this slide, just either take a photo of it, we'll certainly send this out, Randy, so everybody has the deck. But this is the process to go through, and 200 plus integrations, we have iterated a bunch. You're gonna get excited about ideas that might impact you, your department, and wanna pull the trigger. Pause, give it a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks, go through this process with your leadership team, unpack what's gonna be the top priorities, and go from there. And so you can actually skip over this slide, Skylar. So I want to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to hand it off to Keith, and we're going to talk a little bit more technically. But any questions as we transform, and he's going to go into some Claude, real depth of how we design workflows and what to do from there. So questions?
Riley, will you cover how to become a great prompter when you're using this one?
Today we won't be talking about prompting, but can follow up with you. We've got some great resources. And so again, guys, we're 60 people here in San Diego. What I want to do, and we'll give you our emails at the end, like we have so many resources and the things that we've built and designed that I'm happy. We're one of the newest members of SDSI, so we joined last week, so we're in the group. So we're part of the club now, so again, we're here to help you guys win, and excited to go from there. Cool.
Okay, so we're gonna get a little detailed here. Please stop me and ask questions if you want to dig into any of this a little bit deeper. There's no stupid questions. Okay, so we're going to talk about some things that are a little bit complex, but I really think if you can wrap your head around some of this, it's going to unlock a lot of things of like how you can operate the business. First, let's just talk about, and I'm going to talk about Claude here because I really think we're in like the Facebook and MySpace days at this point. Like, I mean, OpenAI is it's gonna do good stuff, right? But like Claude has just launched so far ahead. We had this title, using Claude as your AI brain. When I joined Cadre 9 months ago, say for the first 6 months, all clients wanted, when we got on, they're like, well, what would you want to do with AI? They're like, I just want it to be our AI brain. I want to just connect to all of our data sources and I can just ask it any question. And we're like, hang tight, it's a great plan, but you need a lot of infrastructure behind the scenes. You gotta implement Snowflake, you gotta do this, like you were far away. So let's just build this or build that for the time being and let's get there. We're there. Like, like there's a lot of work to make it work long-term and scalable, but we are there where Claude can be your AI brain for your organization. So I want to talk a little bit how these 4 things here, these are ways that you can implement AI in the organization. So skills, how many people have heard of what a skill is? Okay, how many have heard of a custom GPT? Okay, so a skill is basically, it's a prompt that you've written that works really well, and you just say, in Claude, you're like, save it. If you were to just be able to go to a model and be like, save that prompt for me. In OpenAI, that's considered a custom GPT. They're rolling out skills now because they're piggybacking on Claude, but Claude has skills. And so once you have a skill, think of it as a prompt that works, and now you can just go meeting agendas. And it would run through, let's say, go to your calendar, find all your meetings for the day, look at who it's scheduled with, go back through all your Slacks and emails and everything else and say, what is the context for this meeting? Get all the context and then book a meeting right next to it for you for prep. A skill can do that today. Right? So if you build that, you write that skill and that prompt and you have it do it once or twice, like this is a skill. Turn yourself into a skill. Now it becomes a skill and you can run it at any time. A scheduled task is a skill that is at a scheduled point in time. So I have that same thing I just described, that prep for my day. It runs at 7:30 a.m. every day for me. And it'll just run that skill, go through my calendar, book all my prep meetings, and now I know I have a save meeting with context for everything that's coming up that day. A managed agent is only different in that it is a scheduled task, but instead of it sitting on your computer and running locally, it runs in the cloud. So there's something called Claude Cowork, which has gotten really popular recently, and it's amazing. But you can this skill that I have to run my daily thing, it runs on my computer. So if my computer is shut off, like fully powered off, it won't run. But I can have my computer closed and it'll still run. But it's running locally on my computer, and it's creating this dashboard for me, and it's creating all the different tasks on my calendar. A managed agent just lives in the cloud. It's the only difference. Then the last thing is micro SaaS. Think about like Salesforce. Micro is just because we're going to build a small version of it, but Salesforce is a SaaS application. You know what SaaS applications are. We can build AI into a SaaS application for you to where instead of you using Claude, you're just going to this application and saying, run my daily prompt. And it's going to run through there and it generates the dashboard in there. So it can be self-contained. So we'll talk a little bit, as we go through, we'll talk a little bit about each, but if you go to the next one, Skylar, this is, what I want to stress in this is that, please, and Riley said it earlier, please don't think about AI as the tools that are marketing AI to you. Don't worry about that. There are tools out there that can help you implement AI. That's not where to start. A workflow is where to start. That's how you determine whether AI can help your business and how. Think of just any workflow. So in this case, it's an email comes in, a human downloads the PDF from the email, a human analyzes the content, and then decides, is this something, should this move forward or not? And this is kind of similar to we have a lot of private equity firms that they'll use they'll need a SIM analyzer, a confidential information memorandum. They'll get one in through email, they need to analyze it, they decide, are we going to potentially move forward and invest in this company or not? So imagine a human analyzes the content, decides should it pass through or not? If no, they gotta write a rejection back and say, no thank you, appreciate it. If so, they need to summarize that opportunity, put it in a slide deck, and then every week, let's say, they have to send that deck to leadership. If that is a workflow, and that takes 5 hours, go to the next one, Skylar. If that's a workflow that takes 5 hours, then this could be an AI native workflow that could take 5 minutes, where an agent is going to scan your email, could be every hour, could be every day. It's going to find instances of a PDF coming in that is specific to the type that you're talking about here. In this case, let's say a SIM, a confidential information memorandum. It's going to find that in the email, automatically pull it in to Claude. It's going to run a skill that analyzes that and says, here's all the things I need to look for, here's all the types of output, that's all built into the skill. It analyzes it, and then there can be a human in the loop in the middle to be like, should it pass or fail? Or it can be automated. If it gets over this score, it's going to pass. Under this, it doesn't. If it doesn't, Claude can draft a response and pop it in your draft email. So every day you're just going through your draft emails and be like, no, rejection, send it. You read it, make sure it doesn't say anything stupid, send it, right? In the other case, it can actually go and create, if it passes, it can create a deck for you, and it can automatically pop that in a draft to your email, and human reviews it and sends it. This can all be automated, right? And when you do these workflows, and you think, and that's part of the exercise later where we're gonna say, think about some workflows in your business, and we can help you determine, tell you, this can be automated, this should not be automated, it's good at this, it's not good at that. But every time you have a workflow, it's really important that you run it through a standard process of rollout. Because there's an MIT study that showed up to 90% of internal AI implementations were failing. What does failing mean? It doesn't mean that it wasn't done and it wasn't built. It means that it didn't actually replace the human, manual workflow that it was supposed to. It didn't get adopted. And that comes down to change management. This process, I would recommend for every single, this is how we do it internally, every single thing that every workflow we're gonna optimize in our business runs through this. So if you click the next one, Skylar, the first one is legacy workflow. All you have to do here is what you'll do today. You can just define, what is the workflow? How does it work today? If you don't know that part, if you're like, well, Bill goes and figures it out, don't try to automate Bill, right? You need to know, what does Bill specifically do? He does this, and he does this, and he decides on this, and he does that. If you can map the workflow out, then you can decide whether AI can automate it. So you have to map it out, and you have to also, if you go back one step, you also want to say how much time was spent on that workflow today, and what's the quality score of it. Because this is important. If you're spending 5 minutes on this thing, unless it's done 100 times a day, how much time are you really going to save if you automate it? Go focus on a bigger problem, right? Or if the quality is really good, but it's manual, I don't know. Maybe the quality is good enough. You just want to hire a human to do that. Great. It's really important before you move on to the next one to make sure this is worth solving. Okay, if you go to the next one now, before you do any kind of building, you want to design what would the new workflow look like. Just like I did before, here's the human way, here's where AI would come in and what it would do. You just describe it and you figure out how long is it going to take to build and how much impact do I think I'll get out of actually building this thing. Once you're at this point, then you want to define a goal. Internally at Cadre, we use goals as we say, what is the success criteria? What will be true if this thing is rolled out properly? This thing will happen, this thing will happen, this will only take 5 minutes. So you just define what does success look like. Now that you know what success looks like and you know what the workflow is, now you go build it. This is where you're either going in and you're designing, you're writing a skill, you're setting it up as an agent, you're doing all something, you're testing it out. Then you move into user acceptance testing. That's where you go to the person who's the stakeholder of this workflow and say, okay, Bill, try it, right? Let's just see, I'm gonna show this is how it would work. Do you like that? Oh, there's this edge case where blah, blah, okay, cool. So you go back and you refine it. What about now, Bill? Yeah, that in theory, that would work. Okay, great. Once you get past user acceptance, you go to system creation. We say systems, but it's really SOPs. You need to define how the human is actually gonna use this thing. Hey, Bill, when you're ready to do this each week, you're gonna go in Claude, you might go / meeting alert or whatever the prompt is going to be, and then you're going to get this feedback, and then you need to go into your draft, so you need to explain to the human how it actually works. And then you need training on it. Actually do training and record that training and make it available to watch back. Because if Bill leaves or someone else comes in, you need training and an SOP to actually show them how to use the AI. Then you measure and fine tune. A workflow can sit in this, because you've rolled it out at this point, a workflow can sit in here for months. There are some skills that we build that it's edge case after edge case comes back and we're like, oh, didn't realize that. Okay, we're going back and refining the skill. Roll it out again. Oh, what about this? Okay, going back. That is a consistent loop. But over time, the amount of feedback goes down. And now before you know it, people are just using it and it's working. Every once in a while, you're getting some feedback. And that's when you move it into complete. And that's when you're just fine-tuning it even more when feedback is coming in. But it is now a workflow that is embedded in the company. And you've gone from 5 hours of something to 5 minutes. That process, I know it seems like a lot, but if you shortcut that, you're liable to not have an SOP. And now the next person comes in and it doesn't get adopted. You're liable to not train them well, and it actually doesn't get adopted. Or, worst case scenario, you do all of this stuff, and in measure and fine tune, the person who's actually using this tries it the first time and they're like, this isn't that great, and goes back to doing it the old way. And nobody's paying attention. So you have to pay attention to be like, I'm not getting any feedback on this. Are you actually using it? Oh no, it didn't really work, so I went back to the old way. Unacceptable. Give me the feedback, let me fix it. And go back and forth and fix it, because it will get better. And you will be able to fine tune it to where it really does what it's supposed to do. But don't let yourself fall in that 90% of the AI implementations that are failing just because you don't measure it and fine tune it and force people to actually use it. Okay, so here's where we're gonna get a little bit more complicated. And I want you to stop me if I'm going too wild here, because I know we don't have too many people in the 3s, but I think for 2s and 1s this will be helpful. How many people know the concept of token usage? Okay, great. How about context window? Anybody know that? All right, really short on this. So company knowledge and context, you have to give AI all the context it needs to actually do the job. If AI doesn't know how to, the human can't do it, can't explain it, then it's not going to be able to do it well. It's going to give you slop back and you're not going to trust it. So you've got to give it knowledge. Token usage is basically compute power. when you run a prompt, if it's a very simple prompt, how are you doing today, Claude? Meant no tokens, basically, right? It's not going to use any of that compute power. But if you ask it a really complex question, or one that it has to go do research on, or one that it has to go reach into other systems and pull data out of, compute power goes up. You only have a certain amount of tokens that you can use based on the model or the plan that you're on for your organization. So anybody that has Claude might see things where it's like, oh, you're up at your usage, it'll reset in 4 hours. And you're like, what now? So making sure that you're not burning a whole bunch of tokens is important on like silly things. And then context window is essentially, you ask Claude a question. Hey, are my clients happy? And you have it connected to your, let's say Fireflies as your call recordings, and it's also connected to Gmail, and it's connected to Slack. What is it supposed to do? Like, you didn't say, are my clients happy recently or in the last week? It's just taking that and it's gonna go, well, all right, let me go pull the last year of transcripts or go to this and pull all this up. And now it's burning all this compute power, and it will reach a window where it's like, that's enough. I'm not going any further than this, and it's just gonna answer your question, when it may not have actually gone through all the data you want. So think about like a call transcript. Are my clients happy? How much of that call transcript is really gonna tell you whether clients are happy? A very small amount, right? And so it's gonna have to read the whole thing of everyone to find out that little bit. That's where the context window comes in, and you will come up against it if you're just running these massive prompts. So I wanna talk about how you can fix these. Okay, so imagine you have a Claude interface right here, right? And you want to say, hey, I want to create an HR chatbot. So you have an HR, bless you. You have an HR manual that's 80 pages long. And you go into Claude and you pop it in. Go ahead, Sky, hit a button, pops in. Okay, so you load your HR policies and you ask, do we have Columbus Day off? And there's 80 pages. See on the top, there's tokens. It may have only used 20% of your tokens, so a very small amount of like what it can use, let's just say. So, small, it's not a big run. But the reason that pages thing only went up to 20 is that Claude all AI models will look for the first answer. So if you give it a very basic prompt like that, it might go through and on page 10, see that it says, we offer all major holidays off. Now on page 78, it notes that Columbus Day was not one of the days off, let's just say. In that scenario, it will give the wrong answer, because it'll find the first instance of what it thinks might be a directionally right answer and give it to you, because it's not instructed to read the whole thing. So this model of loading a PDF in and asking it one question is difficult. What you want to do is you want to be as specific as possible and allow it to go into the natural places and pull that data as needed with a very specific prompt, which is a skill. So let's talk now, go to the next one. Let's say you ask, how has my client sentiment been tracking this quarter? Okay, click Skylar. Now let's say it has access to Firefly, Slack, email, and your Net Promoter Score tools. All different systems out there. Now they're connected, you see the words MCP. Go back, Skylar, please. I'll raise my hand. Sorry, I'm raising my hand all the time. So MCPs, those are basically tools that will go and reach into a system and pull data out. They're native in Claude. If anyone's heard of an API, it's similar to that, but it's for natural language like retrieval. And so Claude can connect to all of these things and try to answer this question for you. How's my client sentiment been tracking? But if you click next, what ends up happening is your context window gets fully filled up because there's too much data for it to actually parse through, and your tokens go through the roof, right? Because it's trying to parse a ton of data. All right, so go to the next one, Sky. Now, I want to show one more part of this before I get to how to minimize this, how to fix the context window and how to minimize the token usage. And that is, what Riley said earlier is interesting. Of like, we're used to now in AI models using the actual chat back and forth. How's my client sentiment doing? It's going to give you a bunch of text. Sometimes you're like, oh, I wish I could just visualize this. If you are unaware, you can ask Claude to create an HTML dashboard for you. And it will create a visual just like you would see in a SaaS application. And then you can fine tune it and be like, oh, I wanted to have these filters. I wanted to do this. It will create it all for you, and you can build that in as a skill. So once you say, turn this into a dashboard that creates this, click again, Sky, for me, and you say, now turn this into a skill and schedule it, Claude can take that prompt that you use to say, all right, now go grab, what's my client sentiment? Go grab all the data from all these different MCPs, pull it in, make it a visualization, and schedule it to run every day. And it can do that for you today. But, like I said, it's going to be burning a good amount of context, right, and tokens. So, one way to get around this is, we have a portal. We call it Cadre One internally. But we give it away to our clients as well. But imagine now, if, let's say, Chris, you're running a dashboard every day off your computer in Claude Cowork that's going and grabbing this client sentiment and creating it. No one else from your organization can see it yet. So what you can do is you can either take that skill and turn it into an organizational skill where everybody at the company can run that and see their dashboard. But what happens? Everybody's burning tokens at that point. So now your token usage is going to go through the roof. The way to do it is to say, Chris, every time you build your skill and you tell it to create a dashboard, you also tell it to publish that dashboard in your company's portal. And now anybody from the organization can see that dashboard at any time. And you're only burning the tokens once for you to run it every day. And so this is what's really important in terms of, from a scalability perspective, to take what you are doing in Claude and allow other people in the organization to actually access it. You click again, Sky. All of this comes down to something that we like to call the context core. And that visualization there is a database. A database is just a big table. And it's got information about your organization in it. The more information that you can pull about your organization into that context core, that database, the better your skills are going to perform, the better the output is going to be. Riley said before, garbage in, garbage out. If you're asking it a question like, how many direct reports do I have? And it has to go into ADP every single time and look through all these different tables to get that, it's not an efficient way to do things. Or say, I want to see how my direct reports are spending their time today. It's got to then go into ADP, figure out who all your direct reports are, then go into Gmail, look up all their calendars, then summarize it and give it back. If you have your data in your context core already, everything happens way faster. So if you click again, now imagine you have your context core that is using APIs. They're not MCPs, they're APIs. They're just a direct connection. So now imagine if you're pulling your Fireflies, your Slack, your email, your MPS, all into this database every day. Now, the real unlock, click again, is being able to see how has my client sentiment been tracking this quarter, and it's just going into the context core to get that data out. Now your tokens are only maybe a quarter of what they were before, and you don't have to worry about the context window anymore. So the context core has all this context. And has anyone heard of RAG? Okay, one person. Let me just explain the very basics of RAG because you'll hear it as you get more into AI. If context core has all your, let's say, Fireflies, all your emails, all your everything stored in there, and you ask it a question like, has client sentiment been tracking positively or negatively? It still has to go read the entire call transcript, the entire email, the entire Slack. RAG is taking what's in the context core and creating mini tables with just the relevant information that it would care about. So every day, when your database pulls your emails in or your Fireflies, it's like, what data in this, it reads it once and it says, what data in this is relevant to client sentiment? Takes that little chunk and stores it in a little mini database, a little table. And it does that over time. So that then when you ask it, how's client sentiment tracking, it only looks at just the relevant data. And now your tokenage is zero, basically nothing. Because it has very little data to parse. It's similar to asking it, how are you doing today? Right? Because the data is so chunked up and parsed that it can look at it specifically what it wants. So I know we're getting into a lot of details here, but the core thing I want you to take away is that today, you can go and set up, I would download Claude, if you have Claude, would download it to your actual computer, and there's a setting for Cowork. Get on that, and then go in and say, what are my data systems that I care about? Is it Gmail, is it Outlook, what is it? And I would connect those sources. You click one more time, Sky. So you have your Claude, you connect via your MCPs to all the data sources, and start asking it questions. Right? And go slowly, one at a time. Hey, how many emails did I get yesterday? hey, if you summarize all my emails from yesterday, what are the action items I need to take? Start asking it questions like that and start experimenting. Before you know it, you will realize that, oh, I can ask it a question that involves two systems, right? So we have the pipeline for Cadre, we have it in Google Sheets right now. We have all of our deals in HubSpot. And then I have all the context for those deals in another system. We can create a dashboard now, like that. Every day that automatically runs, that pulls data from all the different systems and marries it together. The last layer of it all, though, is that context core that you really, so we can show you, we've got computers, we can show you what this actually looks like, but that is how we run our organization, is we keep as much context as possible in our database so that when Claude is running, it is accessing it from a central place of truth. And again, where we're at today is Claude can connect to all those sources, but it's going to burn. It's going to burn tokens, and there's going to be the context window you come up against. But do it for now. It's okay. Like, start experimenting with it. Just know that over time, the real way to make this scalable is to have that context core, that true underlying like brain, or I think of Claude as more like the orchestration layer, and that central database, that context core, is where all your core data lives. And Claude is just pinging it to access and giving you information back. Yeah.
Context core, is that a physical thing that lives within Claude? Or if I have all my data structured in Snowflake, it's like...
That's your context core, Snowflake.
That's it, right?
Snowflake.
It's just connecting Claude to the layer.
Yes. The more data, if you're already using Snowflake and it's got a third of your data in it, because that's all you really need in right now, but you start using Claude and you realize, oh, I should also grab Slack. You may want your Snowflake to start ingesting Slack daily, right?
If you have a structured data warehouse, though,
That's it. That's your context core. The only thing you'd be missing on that is the visualization layer that I discussed, which would be like, hey, if you run a dashboard one time and you want the rest of the team to see it, it's hard in Claude to do that today. So they have to run that each time themselves.
You guys suggest that's exactly where I'm at right now. And that's where I've gotten to. It's like I can probably get it halfway done on Claude, but I look or whoever, there's all these other tools out there to do it. What do you guys like to refer to as the most visualize like that?
Well, so we built ours. I would say
Using like Claude.
you could use Claude Code.
Code, yeah.
You could use Claude Code to build a portal visualization layer connected to your Snowflake, yes, and then invite your team members on it. Yep.
So where does Obsidian fit into that? Like, am I kind of adjacent?
We have some team members that use it. I don't think it's needed. I think it is like a light RAG architecture, like automatic RAG architecture, and like while we have some pretty incredible like visualizations that it provides in terms of like your brain, I personally haven't found it to be as useful as just using Claude to actually visualize the data that's in the database. How we have time?
Awesome.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, perfect time. And so I'll just share kind of the value of this. It came up today for me. I'll give you two examples of just when you have, it's becoming easier and easier, taking Claude and connecting it to all those databases. We have a new guy, Mark, who's starting in a week. And so we just been kind of getting him early onboarding. And he's coming in on 3 big clients, and he's going to be one of our new team members. And I was talking to him this morning, and he was like, man, I had no idea this was possible. I was going to ask to set up a meeting to get a bunch of context, but I just started going into Claude last night and said, can you give me the update? Like, what are we doing for this client? Can you give me the contract? And he was, all of his onboarding, he did by himself through Claude. Where instead of taking my time or an HR person's time catching me up to speed, he was just asking the questions because Claude had access to all the information, the contracts. And a lifesaver for me in this same example, I probably have cut out, because of our Claude connected to the ecosystem, maybe 6 hours a week of meetings. Every time we would sign a new client, we would do a new client handoff meeting where I'm talking to the client and I've spent 2 months building a relationship and having sales calls and building contracts, figuring out their pain points. And they'd say, cool, let's start with Cadre. And I'd have to get the team together and then we'd set a 90-minute onboarding meeting internally where I'd catch them up. Okay, you're gonna meet Greg and you're gonna meet Susie. This is their problems. Here's the scope of work that we're doing. About 3 months ago, those meetings that I was having 2 to 3 times a week, don't exist anymore. Because I could just tell the team, hey guys, new client signed, here's the client name, go ask Claude any question that you want to ask me. I'm probably going to give you a pretty shitty response like from what's already in the transcript and play that game of telephone where I'm going to lack context. And so all they have to do is say, okay, go to Claude, because it's connected to all the transcripts, all the contracts, and say, we created a skill, a new client onboarding skill that knows, go read the contract, go read the transcripts, give like a personal profile of who the people are on the other side. And so for me personally, like just that one use case, probably 4 to 6 hours a week meetings that are gone. And if they have further questions, like those are those little examples that you might not think of. And so as what we want to do now is we're going to spend the next 25 minutes going a little bit head down. And so cadre, crew, just stand up real quick and I want to introduce you guys. Cool. So real quick, could each of you just announce your name? I'm going to have them pop